So I used to work with this woman named Lauren. She likes to journal. She lives in Wyoming. She actually organized these like nonprofit gatherings where you like meet up and you make these journals. Then everyone donated them to the Ronald McDonald House. It's really cool. One of the first weeks I even knew her, I was on the job. A bunch of us were out in Northside, and we were all walking around, just kind of checking out the neighborhood. And we got to a crosswalk, and Lauren looked at me, and then she reached out her hand for me to hold her hand. And I did. I just held her hand and walked across the crosswalk. And I don't usually hold straight girls' hands who are 27 years old who are like my peers because I'm a big homo and that'd be really weird and awkward. But she had Down syndrome. So that made sense to me to hold a 27-year-old woman's hand and walk down the street. That was my first week on the job, and I sat with my supervisor, Candace, a week after that. I think she gave me some time to process that, and she asked me, she said, Sarah, what do you think about that interaction? What do you think people saw when they saw you walking down the street holding Lauren's hand? What do you think they thought of Lauren? I said, well, they probably thought that she needed me to hold her hand. They probably thought she was a kid, not a 27-year-old resident of Wyoming who organizes journal-making events for people to donate to the Ronald McDonald House. So Candace made me feel like a huge asshole, a fool, but it was okay. She was very kind, and it was a big learning moment for me, and I was super grateful to understand that how I interact with people matters, and how I treat people matters. Fast forward a couple months or so, and I was working with a guy named Jason. And at this time, I'm working at Starfire. I won't go into Starfire. It's an amazing, revolutionary organization. Look it up. So I'm working there, and I'm a staff. I'm in charge. I'm 24 years old. I know things. And one of my jobs at this point is to, kind of go there and have a cup of coffee and hang out, and then kind of gather people together for our morning meetings so we can start our day. And Jason is, sitting in the common area, hanging out, and I'm, everyone's coming, and we're about to start our meeting, and I go to him like, hey man, it's time to start morning meeting. He won't even look at me. I'm like, we do this thing, we gotta do it, it's time, it's that time, every fucking morning we do this, Jason, why aren't you coming in? I've asked you to, I'm the boss, I'm a staff, he's just not listening to me, and so I'm pissed, and I'm like, I'm paid to be here, people need to listen to me, I have things to say, and so I go to my mentor, Kathy, and I said, Jason's being defiant. This woman laughed so hard in my face. I've never seen anyone laugh so hard. And I'm thinking, well, he is. Why are you laughing? What's happening? And she said, Sarah, how old are you? I said, I'm 24. I have a salary. And she says, well, Jason's 30 years old. And Jason is probably told when to get up every morning and what to wear every morning and what to eat every morning. And he's told to go on a certain bus every morning. He's told where he's gonna go every morning. And then he gets to a place where random people come in and out of their jobs and want to tell him what to do every morning. He's not being defiant. And you will never use that word again in this organization. Jason's being a human. Jason's being an individual. Jason is trying to have a voice in a voiceless world for 30-year-old men with Down syndrome. All right, I get it. Thank you. So I work at Starfire for 4 years, and the learning journey there was just insane. It was awesome. And I'm feeling like, I got my sea legs, I'm ready to go, and I go back to school, and then I start working another job. And now I'm not just working with people with disabilities. I'm working with people with disabilities, and they have mental health issues, and they have trauma, and it's nuts, and I'm learning all about the brain and trauma, and it's just I'm pumped. I love the brain. I'm obsessed with the brain. I text my dad, he's a doctor. I'm like, the brain, man. He's like, yeah, the brain. I know the brain. So I know a lot of things. I know what I knew then, and now I know what I know now. So enter Jim. I'm told before I meet Jim, all these really horrible things that he's gone through in life. And then I'm told, go help them out, you know? So I know about Starfire. I know I need to get to know people and not their disability, right? I need to get to know what do they love, what are they into, like what makes them really tick, what are their passions. So I know that Jim loves playing video games and that he won't do anything else but play video games, and I'm never gonna get him out of the house, and I'm probably just gonna sit there for the rest of my career where I'm working now and just play video games with Jim. And for some reason that's not enough for me. So I drive out to Bethel, which, does anyone know where Bethel is? Not a place that anyone should ever go or be from. So I go all the way there, and I go into Jim's house, and I was like, hey man, like I'm that new person who's gonna tell you what to do. I didn't say that. I just said, what's up? Can we hang out today? He wasn't really feeling it, but I convinced him, like, listen, just let's hang out for an hour, we'll kick it, then you can come back to your games. He said, all right. So we had a choice then. We're in Bethel. There's nothing going on in Bethel, right? So we could drive to the library and like look up books about robotics, because he also loves robots. He loves video games and building robots. So I thought, we could do that, or we could just walk there. That, get to know each other, take some more time. So we leave his house and we start to walk to the library. And we've got some chit chat. We're talking about video games, something about Minecraft, and I don't even know how to continue with that. So I don't even know anything about video games at all. It's all over my head. But we're talking, and I'm really good at being curious about people. So I just keep asking, and we're talking. We get to the library, we look up some books and stuff, and then we ask the librarian, hey, are there any robotics clubs here? Could we start one? She's like, yeah, maybe. So we leave, and then Jim does something really, really fascinating to me. He says, he hasn't talked to me much, and he says, you see that? You see those lines right there, like painted lines in the sidewalk? And he says, let's take you to a secret place. And I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm gonna follow his brain. He's somewhere in his imagination. I'm learning about trauma, and I know about play therapy now, and how to play heals the brain and all this stuff. And so I'm just gonna go with it. And we proceed. I just follow his brain as we go 2 miles back to his house. We run the entire way, and we're dodging lasers coming out of mailboxes, and we're jumping over fire pits, and we're dodging dragons. It's just this crazy, amazing adventure, and we connect. And I think, nailed it. This new trauma brain I have and all my shit I knew from Starfire, I got that guy. We connected. He's gonna come out of his house with me every week, and we're gonna change his whole life, right? So I meet with my mentor, Joe. A week later, I'm telling her this whole story, and I'm like, it's so cool how now I know this, and I knew that, and now I've meshed the two, and now I just know everything. And she says, Sarah, wow, and the way that she would, she says, that is something. She said, I bet you're wondering what Jim's neighbors think when they saw you running from the library in Bethel to his home, playing together. So I said, oh yeah, totally wondering that. Of course I would wonder that. Anyone who's had my training and understanding of how to treat people with disabilities like adults and valued members of the community would totally wonder, what would people think? I didn't wonder that at all. I got totally lost in my new professional role. I'm an expert. I know things. I don't know shit about play therapy. I've read some stuff. I'm being taught. I'm actually not a therapist at all. That's what I want to be when I grow up, but I'm not there yet. But I got lost in that, and I realized that I can get back into my car that I own and go back to my job where I am paid, and I'm adult Sarah. I can run through a neighborhood, right? Because I have status to spare. I can be a grown-up and a respected member of the community and play. Jim is probably seen as that weirdo guy with a disability and a mental illness and a trauma history, right? He's probably known by his case notes versus his gifts and his passions and his interests, right? So 6 years later, I'm back to the drawing board. I haven't yet admitted to Joe that, no, I wasn't thinking, what might they be thinking? But I did learn a lot from that. Went back to the drawing board and remembered, okay, passions, gifts, interests. That's the focus here, right? What does Jim love? Jim loves video games and robots, and he's been told his entire life that people don't, that's not a job, Jim. People don't do that for a job, Jim. Those are hobbies. I refuse to believe that, because there are video games, which means somebody has a job making them, designing them, testing them, playing them. And robots are real. Like, those are things that people build, with their brains and computers and stuff. So I'm determined, man. I'm going to find the Bethel Robotics dudes for Jim. Well, a week later, I'm at the potluck in my neighborhood, and in walks this woman, Taylor, whatever. We're chatting, we're hanging out, small talk. All of a sudden, Taylor says, I build robots for a living. I just can't even handle it. I'm ready to text Jim right then, like, oh my God, I met your soulmate, this is great. Ah! But I toned it down because I'm like, well, maybe she lives in Coleraine or Westchester, somewhere not Bethel, probably. And then I'm not going to hook him up that way, whatever. She works in Amelia, which he just moved to Amelia. So now I'm like, oh my God, like, can we take you out for coffee? I know this dude, his name's Jim, he loves robots, he wants to build them, can we take you out for coffee? Of course, she says. So I tell Jim, we're going to Dunkin' Donuts, man. Like, we have a coffee date. We get in there, Taylor comes in, and up to this point, I haven't told Taylor anything other than this guy loves robots. So she comes in expecting to meet guy who loves robots. She brings an Arduino microcontroller. I don't know what that is. I still don't know what that is. We've had coffee with Taylor many a time. She's talked about this many. I still don't know what she's talking about, but Jim knows what she's talking about. They talk for an hour and a half about her engineering, manufacturing degree and extruded aluminum and bar feeders and all this crazy shit that I don't give a fuck about. And I don't even know how to be curious. I don't know what they're talking about. But Jim, who usually, when he's in a conversation with all his staff workers, is hunched over and, can't answer a question because he's being treated by his case notes. But with this situation, his shoulders were back, his voice was deeper, he was just in the zone. I would bet my measly salary that he didn't know half the things she was talking about either. It didn't matter though, they were connected. And now we're building a robot, Jim's idea, Taylor said it's possible, and we're building a robot for the Union Township Maker Fair in June. I'm not gonna tell you what it is, stay tuned, it's gonna be, they're onto something. So, this last week, I was thinking about, like, how do I talk about this? How do I share this story without being a total asshole or preaching or kind of getting on my high horse? And I got a phone call, and it was my friend Joseph. And Joseph and I met just like I met all these other people, right? I was a staff, and he was a client, right? We were in this dynamic. And over the years, we've connected. We bonded over bicycles and potlucks. And about our grandmothers. Joseph's both our grandmothers have Alzheimer's, and my grandma was from Mattoon, Illinois. His grandma lives in Effingham. No, that's like Bethel. No one knows where these places are, but they're right. They're like 15 miles away from each other. It's nuts. So he would always ask about my grandma. When I told him my grandma had passed, he said, "Fuck, I'm there. I'm coming. I got to be there. I'm gonna tell my dad to be there immediately." Right? We bond over cussing too. He calls me back 15 minutes later. Says, "Sarah, people don't usually come to funerals when they don't know the person, right?" I said, "That's right, Joseph." He said, "So it's okay if I don't come?" I said, "That's right, Joseph. You don't have to come to my grandma's funeral." But he cares about me, and we've connected. And in our conversation, he usually calls us to catch up, and he called and he said, it just kind of out of middle of nowhere in the conversation, he said, "Hey, Sarah, how long have we been bros?" I always say, like, "Hey, bro," when we're hanging out talking. And I said, "Well, I guess it's been about 6 years now." When we first met, he's like, "Holy shit, I'm gonna tell everyone I know. I'm gonna tell all my staff, everyone know. I've been bros with Sarah Buffie for 6 years." I said, that's really cool, man. Like, I appreciate you. We got off the phone, and I realized that led me to an invitation for y'all tonight. To find someone who shares your passions, who lives near you, not in Bethel, someone who you might be able to connect with, who's on the margins, who's left out, who's known by their case file and not by their character, and find a way to be their bro. Thanks.